Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello, hello, hello. It is I, Dr. Cynthia Dempsey, and I am so pleased to welcome you today to All Things New, where we are having our InKNOWvator series. And on today's episode, we have a very special guest, and her name is Consuelo, and I am holding in my hands this is volume 1, Affirm Greatness, Realize Destiny, Motivating Memoirs to Encourage and Empower. And this was written by our guest today, Elder Consuelo Gaines. This amazing woman has such a story, a testimony of where God brought her from and what he has called her to do. She is an humble woman of God. And just to meet her, you would not know all of the amazing things that she has accomplished, because she does not brag about herself. She does not boast about it, but she walks with such a dignity and a strength. And when you begin to hear her speak, you say, oh my goodness, she is definitely an InKNOWvator that God has called into the earth realm for such a time as this. So get ready. You are in for an amazing treat. God bless you as we talk with Consuelo. About you as a child. You had a very interesting journey that God has taken you on, and you shared some of that in your book, your volume 1, because I know you have volume 2, and I actually have the book with me. Hope you guys can see it, but if not, what I'm going to do is we will have it posted up.
I'll hold one up too. There we go.
There we go. This is
I don't have volume 2 out here with me, but yeah, that's volume 1.
Yes. So I really love how you shared your life through the book. So how about you give us maybe an experience from when you were a child that you, and looking back as an adult, you say, you know what, that was one of the experiences that kind of changed the trajectory of my life and made me go, was maybe part of that birthing process into where you are today.
Oh, wow. Well, I guess if we talked about that, we'd have to go back to preschool and maybe even kindergarten, but definitely preschool too. So I had an experience that I didn't find out until way later. I think towards adulthood, that other people didn't have this experience and don't usually have this experience. But I started school. I was about 2.5, 3 when I started school, I believe, and it was just amazing for me. I could not believe, that I got to go to this wonderful place every day with all these other wonderful people and see this person like up there, like sharing all this knowledge and information. And I got to do it and be affirmed and be encouraged and all of that, and sing and run around and dance and play and all these other wonderful things. And yeah, it was just amazing. And, then they ask you the question, and I want to say it was either in the second year preschool or it was in kindergarten. And they're like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And that teacher that was at the front of the room, I'm like, I want to be that. That's what I want to be when I grow up. And never, ever after that moment, like that was for me, there was something that was triggered. And it was just like, this is what I'm going to do. I have to do, I want to do. And I never let go of that. I know like lots of people talk about, they wanted to be this, and that and the other, and they couldn't decide, and they went to college and didn't know what they wanted to do. That was never me. I always, like, from that moment on, it was like, I've got to be a teacher. That's what I've got to be, and then the other grade levels, I would, collect the papers at the end of the year, and I would take them home, and we would play, school, and I would be the teacher, and, teaching my siblings, and, I would, mimic my teacher, and we would grade papers and all those other things and share experiences. But that moment right there, and I don't know, like, I don't fathom what it is like for many other people to just not know what it is you want to do. I've never been that. And my mom talks about that, how every time someone would ask me what I wanted to do when I grow up, it would be a teacher. Even, when I was in college, there were people who looked down upon that. They were like, why do you want to be a teacher? You have, so much knowledge, you're so gifted, and talented, why would you want to do that? Why wouldn't you be, a lawyer, or a doctor, or a scientist, or whatever else, and I'm like, this is just what I've got to do. This is what I want to do, and I, that kind of thing. And so, yeah, for me, that was like the defining moment of everything else that fell in place. It was like all to be that and to do that. And like, and as a matter of fact, I want to say, like, right after that is when I started that. Like, I would mimic it, yeah, but that's what I was doing, and even now today, I didn't notice this, but one of my sisters, we were with the family, and one of the nephews, I think it was, and he was asking about playing cards, a card game. I think it was Go Fish or something like that. And so just, without thinking about it, I just, started going into the mode of showing him how to play it, and, explaining, stressing. And my sister's looking at me, and she's like, always the teacher. And I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that. I mean, he asked me how to play it, so I'm just showing him how to do it. And she's like, no, you're always like that. And you got to go through every little step, and then help him practice and let him make it do this, that kind of thing. And I'm like, well, I guess I am. It is innate. It is part of me, part of who I am. So, yeah.
That's such a blessing. And we have that in common, because when I was growing up, I would play school. I would put if my siblings weren't available for me, I would take the desk that we had and put my stuffed animals and dolls, and we had a chalkboard. So I was teaching, I put the papers down, assigned everybody, all of that. So I definitely understand what you're saying. And I believe that if we pay attention and really listen, God shows us the gifts and talents and anointings that are in children. That's like the scripture that says, train up a child in the way that they should go. And one teaching of that is, how are they created? What is their bent? Like, what is it that they're geared towards and they lean into, that comes naturally to them, that God has given them, and to celebrate that and to help it, and not look down upon what they might be doing. Because I think also sometimes people think, I can only do one thing, but God gives us the ability to do multiple. Yes. And that leads into that you have done quite a few things. Your primary gifting may be also in terms of, even with the fivefold, you are a teacher. You have the anointing of a teacher. You carry that, whether you're working in the house of God, or whether he has you working in the world, into the various spheres. So you carry that. Yet there are some other things that God has given you. So we'll talk a little bit more about author in a moment, but tell us something else that God has entrusted to you.
Okay. And you know what? I just want to hop on that comment that you made about, if we listen and if we really, see what God sees in others. I like to say God focals on, and,
that's trademarked, folks. That's a trademark.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you. But yes, and so, there will be children, who operate differently, who learn differently, who think differently. Diverse learners is what the community might call them, the community of teachers and learners. However, God had shown me, like, early in my career, that all of the gifts and talents have worth. You'll see, that kid that tears up everything.
Yes.
And, they'll be reprimanded for it. They'll be looked at like, don't tear that up. Don't tear that, you're always tearing things up, and then, the degrading language comes out and those kinds of things. But there are demolitionists that make probably 10 times as much as I do for one job.
Yeah.
And those kinds of people, their talent is needed in the world. There'll be the kid that, wants to pull everything apart and put it back together,
Right.
and their parents are like, at their wits end, why do you keep pulling everything apart and trying to put it back together? And then you don't know how to put it back together and you miss a piece and those kinds of things. And to be able to see that and to transform that and say, no, you have a gift, you have a talent. Now we're going to channel that. And we're
Yeah.
going to cause that to be a blessing to other people. There are kids that talk a lot. And it's like, they're always talking in class. You can't stop them. They won't shut up, but there are speakers that are paid, 10 times as much as I am worth, for one engagement, because they love to talk and because they have, made that. And so I do want, everyone to think of that and to know that there are so many different gifts and talents. God has a diaspora that is amazing, in every sphere and realm that you can think of. And so, to really tap into that. But to answer your question, going back to that. So aside from the teaching and aside from being an author as well, God has really blessed me in the area of communication. And so that is one of the pieces that I share also with the world as much as I can, and even still developing gifts and talents in that area. So I am an entrepreneur also. I have a business, Triunity Empowerment Enterprises. And so we develop personal empowerment media, both for professional and personal. And so it's ways to take that communication. So speaking, the writing, the author, the books, also media like recordings, like even the YouTube recording we're on now. Although I'm not a huge fan of social media, but that's a way that to reach people. And so, yes, I am becoming more warm to that. And then also, I do voice work. And so that's one of my passions, doing voices. I could say it that way. And many people you hear in the industry call it voice acting. And you can call it that, but I term it voice work, because it often can be a ministry to others as well. Just in the inflections and the sounds and the ways. And when I was a little girl, my mommy, that was one of the ways that she ministered to us. She was an avid reader, and we became avid readers because of that. And we always had a bedtime story. And so she would come in with whatever book it was, and she'd read us the bedtime story, and she would do the voices. I mean, every character had its distinct voice. The narrator even had a distinct voice. And it didn't matter if the book was A.A. Milne's Winnie the Pooh, the House at Pooh Corner, or if it was, the Sweet Pickles, Goof Off Goose, it didn't matter if it was short, if it was long, she had that. And that's carried over with me. I tend to be susical at times. And so not only that, but to kind of live life like a musical. So every time, events happen or people make comments and things like that, then, a song goes off in my head. Yes. And, and then sometimes the voices will come out or the rhymes will come out, those kinds of things. And that works really, really well when you teach little kids. Sometimes adults don't get that, but that's okay. And so I do an array of things. Giving wise counsel is also another one of those. I do coaching in different areas, literary coaching. I also do some professional coaching. I don't term it life coaching because I don't think I coach people's lives, but definitely giving them professional advice and those kinds of things. So I do consultant work. And I've actually done consultant work for quite a while. I just hadn't done it under my own guise as an entrepreneur. Have done it for the various areas in which I work, in different universities and things like that, and to those who are becoming teachers, mentoring and all of those kinds of things. So that's kind of a diaspora of the things that God has blessed me with. But it all stems around communication and teaching. And so, yeah.
I love it. Again, something else we have in common. My when we were growing up, my father would read us the Bible or tell us stories or read us books, and, always would do the different voices as well. And then we loved audiobooks. So we would have the audiobooks and those other ones where turn the page at the beep, bing, and you would turn the page. And so you could read along, which I am a strong advocate for. Reading is empowering, and having that also would help you to learn how to pronounce the words if you would read along with it. So definitely, I enjoy that. We were blessed when you held a seminar, a workshop session for our young people at one of our gatherings that we had. And we're looking forward to that developing even more, because that area of media is so powerful and influential, arts and entertainment. And we are seeing so many young people who are interested in that area. So I am just grateful that we have people such as yourself who have the anointing of God on the inside of them to be able to be example setters. Speaking of that, when you were growing up, was there someone or some people either close to you or some other type of role model that you looked up to that impacted your life?
Wow, that's a good question. I'm sure there are. So my mommy was definitely one of those, very impactful in my life. And, whatever she was and whatever she wasn't, she was all that to me. And a shining example of motherhood, of family, of the importance of family, of tradition, those kinds of things, and just an unconditional love, and so that was always there. Outside of that, outside of mommy, I really would have to say that it was those great teachers that I had. Starting off, I don't remember the name of my preschool teachers, and we had multiple ones in the room, I know. And I went to school in a school that in our area at the time, and probably in some other urban areas, because there was legislation that went past and then funding that came, and we had child parent centers, they were called. And so while we went to school, the little ones went to school, our parents sort of went to school also. They had this special parent room, and they would have like little classes on budgeting or on recipes or on, making healthy foods on a budget, those kinds of things, but things to help parents to learn to parent and to parent well, and to learn how to deal with not a lot of resources, and then find ways to find resources for their families. And so, having my mom to be, in the same building with me, that was of course awesome. But then having, the wonderful women that I saw, and I don't remember in preschool or in kindergarten seeing a man in the building, but once I went to the big school after we graduated from kindergarten, then I did see men teachers as well. And so my kindergarten teacher, which I still remember this day, Miss Tethers, she would sing and she would have us dance, and even at nap time she would have like this wonderful little music playing. Even at snack time she would make things like so fun and all that, and so just that throughout the years, seeing those wonderful, and not to say that all of my teachers were really great, but I could always find something great in them. And I happened to be kind of like one of those kids that teachers really loved, because I don't know, I was just into school and I was very good at it.
I pray that you have been enjoying our interview with Ms. Consuelo Gaines. I truly am inspired. I'm motivated and encouraged to go forward in what the Lord has for me to do. And I pray that God is using these interviews with her to do the same in you. So you ready for the next part?